The whole 8 years later, I'm going to go into it a little bit now. I've kind of done some research because when I saw it at first, I was a big proponent of, wait, 8 years later, I thought Avengers was, I know Avengers was released in 2012, but I thought the film actually took place as well in 2012. I had originally thought Iron Man took place in 2010, and then, Iron Man 2 and Thor and Incredible Hulk, I thought they had all taken place in 2011 because I know they all happened in the same week, which I'll get into in a second. But after rewatching and doing my homework a little, because I just wanted to see how much Marvel backtracked and were protecting what they said with the 8 years later, I rewatched Iron Man 1, and I did see on the Mad Money with Jim Cramer, it says May of 2008 on the episode, so they are claiming that is 2008, which makes sense with Vision's line in Civil War, in the 8 years since Mr. Stark has announced himself as the Iron Man. 8 years, 2016. So that lines up correctly. And then we see 6 months later in Iron Man 2 when we start that film with Mickey Rourke's character from the press conference at the end of Iron Man 1. 6 months later from 2008 I'm assuming we're in 2009 now. We know in Iron Man 2 at the end when Tony Stark is looking at the videos and stuff right at the end of the film, we see the footage from the Incredible Hulk from the college where he, got attacked by General Ross there and had to protect Betty Ross there. So that's confirmed that was in the same day right there at Iron Man 2. And then also Nick Fury did mention in the movie at the donut shop, he mentioned that there's something going on in the Southwest region. Obviously in New Mexico he's talking about Thor, so that happened within the same week as well. So we know that's confirmed. That's all bunched together in the same week. So that's 2009 right there. Then Captain America happens a year later in 2010, after which point Avengers happens a few months after that. This is where it kind of gets a little... It makes sense because they say it, but it still doesn't feel it. They're saying Avengers took place in 2010, and then if you look 7.5 years later is really where it is, but they're saying 8 years later, and you round it up by half a year, so you forgive them for that. But they're saying that Avengers takes place in 2010, and then I rewatched Iron Man 3, and I did see that it said, obviously the film starts in 1999 as a flashback, then it becomes January 1st, 2000. Aldrich Killian then says to Pepper Potts, Tony turned me down 13 years ago, so we know 2002 to 13 is 2013. And also we see on an article about the Mandarin and Tony Stark where he's challenging him, it says December of 2013. So that's confirmed that happened in 2013. We know Thor: The Dark World, my favorite Marvel film. We know that happened right after that, of course. And then after that is when Winter Soldier happened in 2014. And then Age of Ultron happens in 2015. And then we see that Ant-Man happens in 2015 because we hear Hank Pym and Ant-Man say, they're probably dropping, cities on people or something, that he's referencing what happened in Sokovia. So he's mentioning that he's referencing that right there. So we know that. And then we know Civil War happens right after that. The reason I got confused again was they're saying 2010 from Avengers and Christmas 2013 to Iron Man 3. The whole movie of Iron Man 3, he's dealing, of course, with Aldrich Killian and the Extremist thing, that for sure. And he created that enemy himself with, forgetting him, because he was getting laid with Maya Hansen. But the whole point is he's also dealing with the post-traumatic stress of what happened in Battle of New York. And I'm not saying that he can't, in 3 years, post-traumatic stress leaves your body or your conscious memory or anything. Of course not. But the way the movie plays out, it just feels like the Battle of New York was fairly recent. They don't particularly say the Battle of New York was a few months ago, but it just felt like the Battle of New York was a little more recent. So that's where it felt a little off. And also, too, I know Marvel, the films, Kevin Feige runs the films, Perlmutter runs the TV division. I know they've never ever confirmed in the film side that they are connected with the Netflix, even though the Netflix makes a bunch of mentions that they are connected, because we see the Battle of New York articles. On one of the articles by Ben Urich in Daredevil Season 1, it says Battle of New York, May 5th, 2012, and obviously the backdrop of Season 1, the conflict stems from, the Battle of New York, and that's where Wilson Fisk makes all his money off the real estate because it's been destroyed, and now, he's taking advantage of the real estate market there, and that's the whole backdrop of Season 1. So that's where the confusion stemmed from me a little bit until I rewatched all the films really quick just to see if they were, kind of covering their tracks. So for the most part, it does, line up. My biggest thing is it does feel a little weird saying that Iron Man 3 was 3 years after Avengers, but you let it go. It is what it is. It's in the scheme of things, it's not the end of the world. It's just they're not wrong. I'm not saying they're wrong. Just the way it feels is just. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying it's a little weird. But they are correct on the timeline. So I did want to make a mention of that because I was a big proponent of saying they were wrong. They are right on that for the most part. The timelines do line up.